Hi, my name is Dashikna Kannada. I was an IAS officer of the 2009 batch. I had worked in the Karnataka cadre. During my tenure, I had worked under various capacities for the government of Karnataka. I had worked as a deputy commissioner and district magistrate for 3 districts. And in 2017, I had been posted as the deputy commissioner of Dashikna Kannada, popularly known as Mangalore. And since then, I had worked for 2 years in Mangalore in the capacity of a deputy commissioner. My tenure in Dashikna Kannada was very eventful. In fact, we had 2 consecutive years of heavy rains and floods, and 1 year of drought. Not only our district, I think all over coastal Karnataka and also parts of Kerala was very affected at that time. I don't know about the adults of Mangalore, but the children of Mangalore will remember me as their favorite DC uncle. I was very much troubled, when it comes to the matter of children, because I would lose sleep over even if small amount of rain happens. I would think what will happen to the children who will cross small streams in the Malnad, because it is a slightly hilly portion. But during that time, I remember children from the neighboring districts posting memes that DC uncle should give us more holidays. So I was always concerned about the children and their well-being in my district. That is something which I will never forget, the love and affection they showed towards me. In the past few days, you might have witnessed very horrible scenes of school children and PU children heckling and jeering their own classmates in the name of religion. And I'm sure many of you would have thought, what has happened to this country? What has happened to the children of this country? This was something which I expected long before. This is the same fear for which I resigned from service in 2019. I did mention in my resignation letter that the fundamentals of this diverse democracy is being sort of destroyed from the very base, and one needs to take up a call and fight this as far as possible. And my fight against these forces started in 2019, and since then I had been working on this, trying to do my bit to fight this as far as possible. Even though my state of worry is as bad as yours, but having worked in that place, having worked and met the people, and having lived with the people there for more than 2 years, I have a different perspective to add to this whole issue. And it also in a way becomes my responsibility to bring it to the open of what is happening in such situations, and what is the real situation on the ground, so that people will be in a better position to understand and decide for themselves what should be our approach towards this issue, and what should be our role in making sure this doesn't happen the way it is happening right now. Contrary to what you might have imagined or what you might believe, let me make it very clear and assert with all the experience I have, that people from coastal Karnataka, the vast majority of them are very harmonious, very multicultural, and a very, very peace-loving people. This hate which you see right now is actually perpetuated by a micro minority of the population. And if you go to Dashikna Kannada or Udupi, people will even name these people who perpetuate this. This includes politicians, this includes religious leaders, this includes people from various organizations, but they are a very small micro minority which perpetuate. And these people have found that coastal Karnataka can act as a very good stage for them to sort of exhibit this kind of hate and sort of transform into the politics that they want it to be. Coastal Karnataka is a stage from where this politics is pushed into different parts of Karnataka. But let me be again assertive that the people of coastal Karnataka have for a long time lived together with each other in a very harmonious way, and they still, in the heart of the hearts, they don't have any ill feeling. This flavor of politics can be easily understood if one keeps track of when the timing at which these issues rise. You can easily find out there is one election or the other around the corner, and that is when these issues flare up. And people of coastal Karnataka are almost used to this pattern, and they keep waiting for these issues to die down, because they will know once the election thing goes off, all these issues will die down. It's sheer theatre for a kind of politics to be played upon. The people and the organizations who are invested in this kind of making coastal Karnataka a stage thrive on the politics that this particular thing generates. You talk to any average person in Dashikna Kannada or Udupi or Karwar, and they will be very conclusive that they don't buy these thoughts of these people. And one more thing that they are very particular is about giving this mass support perception. So all their propaganda will be, in a way, the viewer from the other side will see that the whole mass is supporting. So this perception of this whole mass supporting this kind of activity is also something which is done very deliberately in these areas. As I said, this is a theatre for the politics which can be played all over Karnataka and other districts of Karnataka. Coastal Karnataka is also one of the most economically and educationally developed place. I think Dashikna Kannada has 7 medical colleges in one city, Mangalore city, and so many nationalized banks have come from Mangalore. So this place has been a cosmopolitan. I keep telling my friends that this could be, Mangalore could be the first city state of this country. It is a cosmopolitan city. And it has been, people have been living in a harmonious way for a long time, until the 90s, when this very hardcore Hindutva politics took over. And since then, the entire coastal Karnataka, which I think can be the heaven on earth, has completely gone down on many indicators and many levels, including business, economics, tourism. Let us come to the hijab issue. Now, hijab issue is not new to coastal Karnataka. When I was deputy commissioner, the same issue had happened. Even many other deputy commissioners had faced it. It happens every year that one group, either from this side or that side, they take up the issue. Generally, this issue is tackled by the local administration, and it basically fizzes out within that level. It never spills over to other places. But I think in this time, the matter was referred to the government. And the current BJP government in Karnataka has no intention in putting it down. Rather, it had fueled it up to a little bit, so that it had spread to the other parts of Karnataka. Otherwise, hijab issue is something which is not new to coastal Karnataka. We are a country which not only accepts differences, but on the contrary, we celebrate differences. I think that is the basic spirit of India. That is the idea of India. When our forefathers decided to ideate on the idea of India, there was even at that time groups of people who never accepted this idea. This idea that everybody can live together and everybody can celebrate each other's differences is, I think, it's something very unique for this land. And even at that time, there were people who didn't accept. There was a group which went and took a different country, saying that we cannot accept this idea of India. And there is another group which stayed back in the country but had been working for 100 years against this idea of India. So the crux of the idea of India is pluralism. It's the idea that I celebrate your difference, you celebrate my difference, and we both have 2 celebrations each rather than one celebration with ourselves. So the question of whether this hijab should be allowed or not allowed is not a question at all. It is well settled in our constitution that when a community feels wholly about a practice, and if it passes the test of reasonableness, I think it is already accepted by the constitution. That is why there is no specific rule or law which says that this is allowed. It is already done in our constitution. So the question of whether hijab should be allowed or not is not at all a question. In this 21st centuries, how are we even discussing, what a woman can wear and not wear? It's her right, and as long as it is not detrimental to somebody else, as long as it is passing the test of reasonableness, there is no question of whether it can be allowed or not allowed. I know many of you might say that, okay, what about uniforms? We need uniforms in schools and discipline and things like that. Please understand, our country is not a country which is one of regimentization. We don't regimentize things. We don't make molds out of people. We accept people as they are. We accept their identities and we celebrate their identities. And in fact, there is a big onus on all of us to protect their identities. And that is how India has survived. And that is how India will survive. This, I'm sure, this feeling is coming from the last 70 years of, the idea that a modern state should not support any kind of identity. But India is completely different from this. And there is another thought process in this country right now which says that India should be one. India should look like one, talk like one, think like one. India should, celebrate one. One and being one and oneness is different. So India is a country, a society which celebrates differences. That is what we are. So this question of whether hijab should be allowed or not is such a trivial question. I don't think you require a government or a constitutional bench to rule over it. It's as simple as anybody who understands India. But the bigger question we should be asking today is that what are we as adults and parents doing? What are we doing to our children? What are we letting them to be? What are the forces which we are allowing to play on them, on their innocent minds? The very child that we thought is going to come over and take up the reins of the society, we are simply witnessing this child being converted into a hate monger. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about this minority of extreme fundamentalists who don't like the idea of India, who want to regimentalize India? What are we going to do about that? I think that is the bigger question that every parent and every adult should be asking at this moment. In fact, many of us would have felt that, what is happening to our kids, and these guys are doing these things to our children. But in my opinion, they are not the culprits. The real culprits are us. As adults and as parents, we have been mutely watching this happening in our streets and our schools and with our children. I think we have a duty to speak up against this. We have a duty to remind ourselves and the society what our country is all about. And if we don't speak up, and if we don't sort of come out openly and come out for a secular country, come out for this this unity within us, then it's going to be very difficult for us to in the coming days and to move forward. Let me also remind you one thing. You might have witnessed one thing in Shimoga, that a group of kids raised the saffron flag in the school. The flag post where the Indian flag had to fly, Indian tricolor had to fly. So, that's a very clear indicator that, this is a fight between India and people who don't like the idea of India. Please understand, the problem is being framed in a different way in front of you. It is not a fight between Hindus or the Muslims. It is not a fight between the Congress and the BJP. It is not a fight between RSS and PFI. It is a fight between Indians, people who love the idea of India, people who love this togetherness, and people who don't like the idea of India. People who don't like the idea of India, they come from different religions, different groups. They don't belong to one group. So we have to, as Indians, as people who have been benefited out of this idea of India, we have to protect this idea of India and give it to our children. And that is our primary duty. And that, how are we going to do that? That is the bigger question that we have to answer. Everybody who is now silently witnessing whatever is happening and crying deep within their hearts, you have to ask this question: what have you done for your children? You know very well that you and me, We have lived this idea of India. We might not have been rich, but we did have a very good life. We did have a peaceful life. We have friends, we had love, we had affection. You know the importance of that. You know you are today because of that. And don't we have a responsibility to give a little bit of that to our children? Are we going to give a hell to them and leave this world? Is that what we are here for? And that is the biggest question that we have to answer. That is the biggest question that we have to answer. That is the question which doesn't allow me to sleep. And that is the question which I think I should be working upon every day. So, hijab is well settled in the constitution. Not only hijab, any other religion, any other group, any other minority or majority, if they feel holy about something, and if they really feel, and if it passes the test of reasonableness, then we have to protect and give space for that identity. But this question of what we are going to do to protect our children from this thought of, this bigoted thought, is something which is the bigger question that we have to answer. Yeah, you might ask me, what can I do? You know, I'm an average working individual. What can I do against these forces who are much bigger than me? Yes, I want to do something. The first thing you have to do is to understand what the problem is. The problem is not between Hindus and Muslims. The problem is between people who like this idea of India and people who don't like this idea of India. That is what I think is first required. Second thing, you have to ask yourself whether you are for the idea of India, whether you want to protect this idea of India. And if the answer is yes, then you have to act. How do you act? You don't have to come to the roads and you don't have to come to the streets. You do what is possible from your side. You are a songwriter, write a song. You are a painter, you paint. You can put a Facebook post on a daily basis, please do that. If you can talk to 4 or 5 people of your friends who don't understand, please make them understand. But please do it vociferously. Please show to the world that you don't belong to the group which foments hate and tries to thrive on a politics which is generated out of that. Show explicitly to the world that you are not that group. This is not politics. No matter which government is in place or whichever group is in place, it doesn't matter. But please understand that we need to protect our idea of India from these forces. Not today, not tomorrow, in the days to come. We have this important job in our hand. Yeah, we do earn, we give our children wealth, we give our children health, we give our children, what not. What is the use of all that if we don't give a better situation for them? If we don't give a peaceful environment for them to live? What will happen to all that? What is the use of giving them the best education if you don't give them the space to move around freely in society? To experience love and affection from each other. So please, as a parent, as an adult, we are failing our children today. And these are all signals for that. As I said very clearly, we have not reached that stage. But these are all very, very important signals. And if we don't understand and if we don't step up and speak up and still keep talking some petty politics about, whether this is Congress or BJP, no. I don't think we will be doing anything to our kids, and our kids deserve a better life, and we as adults have a great responsibility. Otherwise, it is going to be very, very tough for everybody in this country. So once again, I would request all of you to understand the problem very clearly and protect the idea of India. Thank you.